the Balfour Declaration, we can see how Britain are the one who decided to give Palestinian land to Jewish. My question is why Britain are the one who decided that, and why Jewish need a land while they can resettle themselves in Britain or any other countries?
Sorry, I got the first bit of that about the Balfour Declaration. I didn't get the second bit, I'm sorry. Is it in the...
Why Britain was the one who decided that, and why Jewish need a land while they can resettle themselves in Britain or any other countries. Why Palestinian land?
Yes, very good question. All right. Why Britain? First of all, Britain was at this point in time, it was 1917, the Balfour Declaration. Britain was the world's leading imperial power by a long way. It was the most powerful imperialist country. It was involved, of course, in war this time, which I think the First World War, the war with Germany and so on, was essentially a war about empire. It was essentially a war between different powers in Europe. Britain allied with France and Russia, Germany allied with Austria, Hungary, and so on, about trying to redivide up the world's empires. That's what it was about. Germany felt cheated; they didn't have their fair share of colonies because they were late on the scene. So, if you wanted if you wanted a powerful backer to set up a state, who would you go to? You would go to Britain. Now, the Zionists actually looked at various places. They looked at one stage at the possibility of trying to set up a Jewish homeland in Argentina. They looked at the possibility of Uganda, but they settled on Palestine, I think partly for biblical historical reasons, but also, and this is crucial, because it was what the imperialist powers wanted, because it served the interests in relation to the Middle East. And I think that, of course, the power of the British Empire faded after the Second World War. India became independent, Pakistan became independent, Africa, most of Africa became independent, and America became the biggest imperial power, not through formal colonies, but through an economic and military power around the world. And so the focus of Israel shifted to the question of, how can we get the support of the Americans? The Americans were happy to give them that support. And America has always been playing politics and playing war. Play war is the wrong expression, but making wars in the Middle East to maintain control of the oil supplies, and setting one people against another people, trying to ensure that the regimes there, whether it was the Shah of Persia or the Egyptian regimes of Sadat and Mubarak and so on, to make sure that they had alliances with these regimes against any movement of the Arab peoples. And Israel and so on was key to that, and very, very important for that. So that's where I think why Britain played that role back in 1917 and in the 1930s, when it had control over Palestine. Okay.
Right. One last question to John. Is it true that the justification given for settling the Jews in Palestine was elicited from the Bible?
I think that what happens is that unscrupulous politicians will always try and claim religious support for things they want to do for other reasons. Donald Trump lived a completely and obviously non-religious life until such point in time as he wanted to be president of the United States. When he wanted to be president of the United States, he suddenly becomes a Christian and courts Christian fundamentalists and says that he's going to make America great again, he's going to make it a Christian country again, and walks around with the Bible. This is a man who had no interest in religion when he was just building his business interests. This is what unscrupulous politicians do. So, of course, they used the biblical argument, but the founders of Israel were actually secular people. They were not religious Jews. And many Jewish fundamentalists, strongly religious Jews, reject Israel because they say it's not really biblical and it's not really Jewish, and so on. But what I would want to emphasize here is that this is, as I repeat, that whatever people say at different times, this is not really what it's about. I remember being told at a meeting by somebody that they believed that God gave, what they call the Holy Land, gave Palestine to the Jews. And somebody else said, no, I think they gave it to both the Arabs and the Jews. And I said to them, so who did God give America to? And it raised a bit of a problem because if God gave America to somebody, he gave it to the Native Americans, didn't he? Who were there for 20,000 years before any Europeans got there. So if God gave it to them, all the whites in America ought to leave and hand it back to the Indians, to the Native Americans. So they obviously couldn't say that. But you couldn't say they gave it to the British. God gave it to the British, who colonized it. So obviously that didn't work out. So who did God give America? The question is wrong. I just don't believe that God has sat up there and allocated India to Hindus, somewhere else to British people, somewhere else to America. It doesn't work. These things are created in history by social and political forces. I'm afraid. I think that it's only if we understand that, in my opinion, can we understand what really happened. I think saying that, but it says it in the Bible. I mean, this is absurd, to be honest. The Bible was written 2,000 years ago. If we walk around the world saying, my people were here 2,000. I believe I'm told that my origins, my name suggests that my origins were Viking. That is from Scandinavia. I can't turn up in Norway and say, I demand your house because I was here 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago. That's a ridiculous way of behaving. Okay, thank you.